Jaden Merrick groaned as the blaring alarm shattered his peaceful slumber. His skull pounded with the unmistakable drumbeat of last night's terrible decisions. What had started as a simple one drink with colleagues from the Grimhold 7 research station had devolved into a sampling of every exotic alcohol the station's lounge had to offer. "Interface, silence," he mumbled, his voice cracking. The alarm mercifully ceased. "Time and schedule?" The translucent display above his bed illuminated. 0730 hours, Standard Terran. You have sample processing duty at 0800. Current temperature on Grimhold 7, -42 Celsius. Administrator Liu has sent a station-wide reminder about the— Yeah, conservation of heating resources, Jaden interrupted, forcing himself upright. "What did I do last night?" The interface paused, as if considering whether to answer. "According to your personal log, you participated in what you termed DNA roulette with other staff members." Jaden's stomach dropped. Fuzzy memories of the night before started trickling back. The station's entertainment lounge. Dr. Rahim waving around free testing kits from Gene Veritas. Something about a corporate promotion, laughing as they all swabbed their cheeks. "Oh, hell," he groaned, climbing out of bed. "Tell me I didn't actually send that in." Shipping logs indicate that your DNA sample was collected at 0200 hours for delivery to the Gene Veritas Processing Center on Antares Prime. Delivery confirmation has already been received. Jaden stumbled to the tiny bathroom of his quarters. "It's just one of those ancestry things, right? Find out your 1/16th whatever, get some discount coupons for vacation packages to the homeland. No big deal." The mirror revealed a disheveled 24-year-old with bloodshot eyes and 3 days of stubble. 6 years since graduating with his degree in genetic engineering, and here he was, working as a glorified lab tech on the ass end of explored space. "Just perfect," he muttered, splashing water on his face. "Can't wait to find out I have some exotic predisposition to male pattern baldness or something." Little did he know, baldness would be the least of his genetic surprises. 3 weeks passed, and Jaden had almost forgotten about the drunken DNA submission. Grimhold 7 was a research outpost studying the adaptability of Earth-based organisms to non-terrestrial environments, which meant endless hours of monitoring mutating plant cells and recording minuscule changes. Not exactly the glamorous scientific career he'd envisioned, but it paid the bills and looked decent enough on a resume. "Merrick, you got a message flagged urgent," called Dr. Velez from the communication terminal. "From Gene Veritas." Jaden looked up from his microscope. "Probably just trying to sell me something based on my unique genetic profile or whatever." He wiped his hands and walked over to the terminal. The message was coded for his eyes only, requiring his personal authentication, odd for what should be routine ancestry results. "Huh," he said, pressing his thumb to the scanner. "They're really serious about genetic privacy these days." The screen flickered, and instead of the expected colorful heritage chart, a single line of text appeared. "Genetic anomaly detected. Consultation required. Initiating secure protocol." Before Jaden could process what he was seeing, the station's alarm system activated with a deafening wail. "Attention all personnel!" boomed the automated voice. "Security lockdown initiated. Unknown vessel approaching. Unauthorized docking attempt in progress. All personnel to secure stations." Dr. Velez's eyes widened. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Jaden protested, staring at the message. "I just opened my DNA results." The entire laboratory shuddered as something massive latched onto the station's exterior. Security shutters slammed down over the windows. Through the lab's reinforced door, Jaden could hear shouting and the pounding of boots as the station's meager security force mobilized. The door to the lab hissed open. Instead of the expected security team, 3 towering figures entered. They wore gleaming armor of an unfamiliar design, ornate with spiraling patterns that seemed to shift and move in the light. Their features were humanoid but distinctly alien, skin with a subtle purple undertone, eyes larger and more widely spaced than human norm, hairless scalps adorned with intricate tattoos. The central figure stepped forward, removing an elaborate helmet to reveal feminine features. When she spoke, her voice resonated with an almost musical quality. "We seek Jaden Merrick, bearer of the Ascendant bloodline," she announced, scanning the room. Her gaze locked onto Jaden. "You have activated the blood covenant with Princess Kalith Vyre of the Zevrathi Stellar Imperium. Your presence is required immediately." Dr. Velez stepped between them. "This is a Terran research facility. You have no jurisdiction." With a casual gesture, the alien woman lifted Dr. Velez telekinetically and gently but firmly moved her aside. "The blood covenant supersedes all territorial claims," she stated simply. "The child's safety depends on swift action." "Child," Jaden managed, finding his voice at last. "What child? I don't have a child." The woman's expression shifted, showing the first hint of surprise. "You are Jaden Merrick, who participated in the Grimhold expedition to the ancient temple ruins 6 cycles ago?" "I've never left this station," Jaden replied. "I've been here 2 years. Before that, I was at university on Earth." The aliens exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. "A complication," the leader murmured. "Perhaps a memory alteration protocol was implemented." She refocused on Jaden. "Regardless of what you remember, your genetic signature has activated the blood covenant with our princess. You are the father of the royal heir, Orin, age 6 cycles. The child has manifested the Wormheart ability, and Archon Revik now seeks to eliminate the threat to his regency." Jaden's knees weakened. "This is insane. I've never even met a Zevrathi before today." "The evidence suggests otherwise," she replied, extending a hand. A holographic display materialized, showing complex genetic sequences. "Your DNA, submitted to the Gene Veritas database, contains markers unique to the royal Zevrathi lineage, combined with human genetics. Only one such hybrid exists: the child Orin, offspring of Princess Kalith and yourself." "There's been a mistake," Jaden insisted. "Run the test again." "There is no mistake," she stated firmly. "And there is no time. Archon Revik has discovered the child's existence and has dispatched hunters. We must secure both you and the royal heir immediately." The station's communication system crackled to life. "Unidentified vessel, this is Commander Ellis of the Terran Security Force. You are in violation of docking protocols. Withdraw immediately, or we will be forced to take defensive action." The alien leader smiled thinly. "Your protectors arrived too late." She turned to Jaden. "You may come willingly and retain some dignity, or we can transport you unconscious. Either way, you will be coming with us." Jaden looked around desperately. Dr. Velez was watching with wide eyes. The other researchers had backed against the wall. No help there. "Can I at least pack a bag?" he asked weakly. The alien woman nodded curtly. "You have 10 minutes. My name is Sentinel Myra. I am sworn to the protection of the royal bloodline, which now, inexplicably, includes you." As Jaden stumbled back to his quarters, his mind raced. A child? A princess? Royal bloodlines? It had to be a mistake, or some elaborate hoax. Yet the certainty in the alien woman's eyes and the impressive display of force suggested otherwise. In his quarters, he hastily stuffed essentials into a bag, his hands shaking. As he reached for his personal tablet, it pinged with an incoming message, this one encrypted with the highest Terran security protocols. The sender, Terran Intelligence Division. The message was brief. "Comply with Zevrathi. Vital to security interests. Contact forthcoming. Destroy this message." Jaden stared at the screen in disbelief. His own government knew about this. Were potentially complicit. He deleted the message just as Sentinel Myra appeared in his doorway. "Your time is up," she announced. "We must depart before reinforcements arrive." As Jaden followed her through the corridors of the only home he'd known for 2 years, a strange sense of familiarity washed over him, not with these aliens or their claims, but with the idea of leaving, of being part of something beyond this isolated research station. It felt, impossibly, like returning to a path he was always meant to walk. The Zevrathi vessel was unlike any spacecraft Jaden had ever seen. Instead of the utilitarian designs favored by Terran engineers, this ship seemed almost grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that responded to touch. The interior gleamed with materials that defied easy classification, neither metal nor crystal, but something in between. "Containment field activated," announced a disembodied voice as they entered the main chamber. "Preparing for wormhole transit." "Wormhole?" Jaden questioned, securing himself in the offered seat. "The nearest stabilized wormhole is in the Proxima system, 3 days' journey at maximum speed." Sentinel Myra exchanged glances with her companions. "Your understanding of wormhole technology is outdated. The Zavrathi do not rely on fixed transit points." Before Jaden could question further, the view screen activated, showing the exterior of Grimhold 7 receding rapidly. A shimmering distortion appeared ahead, a wormhole opening where none should exist. "That's impossible," Jaden murmured. "Artificial wormhole generation requires energy equivalent to a small star, yes, by your methods," completed Myra. "The ancient ones had more efficient approaches, which only those of the blood can access." The ship plunged into the wormhole, and reality twisted. Jaden's stomach lurched as space folded around them. The sensation lasted only seconds before they emerged into an entirely different star system, one dominated by a massive blue-white star and a stunning ringed planet. "Welcome to the Zavratha system," Myra announced, "home of the Stellar Imperium and the Wormheart Citadel." As they approached the ringed planet, Jaden saw evidence of an advanced civilization. Orbital structures of staggering proportions, fleets of vessels making their precise journeys, and a network of satellites that seemed to shimmer with energy. "You claim I've been here before," Jaden said cautiously. "Not to the homeworld," Myra replied. "Your encounter with Princess Kalith occurred on an expedition to an Ancient One outpost. After the incident, your memories were likely altered. Why would anyone alter my memories, and why would a princess be on some archaeological expedition?" Myra's expression hardened slightly. "Princess Kalith has always had an independent spirit. As for your memories, there are many who would prefer that the bloodlines not intermingle." The ship descended through the atmosphere, revealing a landscape of breathtaking beauty. Vast cities sprawled across the surface, their architecture blending seamlessly with natural formations. At the center of the largest continent stood a structure that dominated the horizon, a massive citadel that seemed to pulse with inner light. "The Wormheart Citadel," Myra explained, noting his awe. "Seat of the Stellar Imperium, and home to the ancient technology that allows us to maintain our dominance of the wormhole network." They landed on a platform extending from one of the citadel's lower levels. As the ship's hatch opened, Jaden was struck by the planet's atmosphere, heavier than Earth's, with a sweetness to the air that made his head swim slightly. "The air is safe for you," Myra assured him, "but you may experience some disorientation until you adjust." A delegation awaited them, more Zavrathi in ceremonial attire, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. At their center stood a small figure that made Jaden's heart skip inexplicably. A child. Even from a distance, Jaden could see the hybrid features, the subtle purple undertone to the skin, the slightly wider-set eyes that were unmistakably human in shape, the dark hair that was rare among pure-blooded Zavrathi. The child, Orin, stared at him with undisguised wonder. Beside Orin stood a woman whose regal bearing immediately identified her as royalty. Princess Kalith Vyre was taller than the average human female, with the characteristic features of her race enhanced rather than diminished by her obvious strength and grace. Her gaze, when it met Jaden's, was cold and assessing. "So," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the platform, "the father of my child deigns to return after 6 cycles of absence." Before Jaden could respond, Orin broke protocol and ran forward, stopping just short of Jaden, studying him with intense curiosity. "You look like me," the child declared in perfect, unaccented English. "But Mother said you were lost." Jaden struggled for words, confronted with living proof that upended everything he thought he knew about himself. "I think I was." Caliph approached, placing a protective hand on Oren's shoulder. "You will address the royal heir with proper respect," she instructed coldly. "Regardless of your contribution, you have not earned the right to familiarity." "Mother," Oren protested, "he doesn't know the protocols. Look at his confusion." Caliph's expression softened marginally when she looked at her child. "True. His memory alteration appears more extensive than we anticipated." She refocused on Jaden. "You truly remember nothing of our time together?" Jaden shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry, but no. I don't even understand how it's biologically possible. Human-Zavrathi hybrids are theoretical at best. The genetic barriers were overcome," she interrupted. "Not easily, and not without assistance." Her gaze turned distant. "It was not supposed to happen. Royal bloodlines are carefully managed, but circumstances." She trailed off, then straightened her posture. "The past is irrelevant now. What matters is that Oren has manifested the Wormheart ability, and Archon Revik sees this as a threat to his regency." The Wormheart ability. "The child can access the ancient technology without interfaces," Myera explained. "Directly, through thought alone. It is a trait that has not manifested in 10 generations of the royal bloodline." "And that's bad?" Jaden ventured. "It is unprecedented," Caliph corrected. "And in the current political climate, dangerous. My brother declared me dead after my disappearance. He has ruled as regent for 6 cycles, promising to step aside when a suitable heir of pure bloodline comes of age. Oren's existence and abilities complicate his plans." "Complicate how, exactly?" "He will attempt to have the child eliminated," she stated with brutal directness. "And you as well. Now that your connection has been confirmed, the blood covenant has been activated by your genetic submission. There is no hiding anymore." Jaden felt a chill that had nothing to do with the alien atmosphere. "What is this blood covenant you keep mentioning?" Caliph gestured, and a holographic display appeared between them, showing intertwining strands of DNA, some recognizably human, others alien, and some completely unfamiliar. "When Oren was born, your genetic patterns were recorded in the royal archives," she explained. "The ancient technology recognizes bloodlines. It is how access to the Wormheart is controlled. When your complete genetic profile entered the galactic database through Gene Veritas, it triggered recognition protocols. The system identified you as Oren's parent and automatically established the blood covenant, a binding legal relationship that cannot be severed." "So I'm what? Automatically married to you now?" Jaden asked incredulously. Caliph's expression flickered with something like amusement. "Not precisely. The covenant recognizes you as Oren's parent, and therefore entitled to certain protections and obligations. It does not determine our personal relationship." Somehow, that was both a relief and oddly disappointing. "The immediate concern," Myera interjected, "is the blood recognition ceremony. Without formal acknowledgement in the Citadel, Archon Revik can still challenge Oren's legitimacy. We must proceed quickly." "And if I refuse?" Jaden asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Then Oren remains vulnerable," Caliph replied simply. "And you forfeit any protection the Covenant might offer you." Oren looked up at Jaden, eyes wide with a child's direct assessment. "Do you not want to be my father?" The question, so simple and yet so profound, struck Jaden speechless. This child, this extraordinary being who was somehow his offspring, waited for an answer that would shape both their futures. "I don't know how to be a father," Jaden admitted honestly, "but I would never abandon you to danger. If this ceremony will help protect you, then of course I'll do it." Oren's face brightened with a smile that was heartbreakingly human. "I knew you would say that. I saw it." "Saw it?" Jaden questioned. "Oren sometimes sees probabilities," Caliph explained, her tone softening slightly. "Another manifestation of the genetic combination. Come, we must prepare you for the ceremony. The Council of Elders will not wait." As they walked into the Citadel, Oren slipped a small hand into Jaden's, the gesture so natural that it took his breath away. He looked down at this child, his child, and felt something shift inside him, a protective instinct he hadn't known he possessed. Whatever was happening, whatever conspiracy or manipulation had brought him to this point, one thing was becoming clear. He would do whatever it took to keep this child safe, even if it meant accepting a role in a cosmic drama he didn't understand. The Wormheart Citadel's interior was even more impressive than its exterior. Corridors seemed to shift and reconfigure as they walked, responding to some unseen command or perhaps the very presence of the royal party. Surfaces gleamed with the same not quite metal, not quite crystal material as the ship, but here it was worked into intricate patterns that told stories Jaden couldn't begin to decipher. "The ceremony will take place in the inner sanctum," Caliph explained as they walked. "You will be presented to the Council of Elders and then to the Wormheart itself." "The Wormheart? That's a machine?" Jaden asked. "It is far more than a machine," she replied, her voice taking on a reverent quality. "It is the legacy of the Ancient Ones, a biological technological interface that controls the wormhole network spanning this galaxy and beyond. Only those of the blood can truly connect with it, and even then, most require extensive training and technological assistance." "Except Orin," Jaden noted. "Except Orin," she confirmed, looking down at their child with a mixture of pride and concern. "Who touched the Heartstone spontaneously 3 cycles ago and opened a wormhole to the ancient temple where we first met?" Jaden's step faltered. "Wait, the child opened a wormhole? At age 3? "Yes," Caliph said simply, "to the exact location where where Orin was conceived." Jaden felt his face heat at the implication. "I still don't remember any of this." "Your memories were likely suppressed, not destroyed," Myra interjected from behind them. "The ceremony may help trigger recovery." They entered a vast chamber where dozens of Zavrathi stood arranged in concentric circles. At the center was a raised dais, upon which rested a pulsing crystalline structure that seemed to contain a miniature galaxy within its depths. The Wormheart, Jaden presumed. As they approached, the assembled Zavrathi bowed to Caliph and Orin, but regarded Jaden with expressions ranging from curiosity to undisguised hostility. An elderly Zavrathi stepped forward from the innermost circle, his elaborate robes marking him as someone of significant importance. "Princess Caliph," he greeted, his voice surprisingly strong despite his apparent age. "The council acknowledges your return with the human progenitor." "Elder Tavim," Caliph replied formally. "I present Jaden Merrick of Earth, genetic contributor to the royal heir Orin, come to fulfill the obligations of the blood covenant." Tavim studied Jaden with ancient eyes that seemed to see far more than surface details. "And does he come willingly, with full understanding of what the covenant entails?" Before Caliph could answer, Jaden stepped forward. "I come willingly to protect my child. As for full understanding, I think we all know that's not possible given my current state. My memories of any previous connection to Princess Caliph or this place have been removed." A murmur ran through the assembled council at this direct speech. "Truthful, at least," Tavim noted with a slight nod. "The human speaks without guile, rare among his kind." "I request the full recognition ceremony," Caliph stated firmly, "including memory restoration." This caused a greater stir among the council. Tavim's expression grew troubled. "Memory restoration is not without risk, especially across species. The human's mind could be severely damaged." "It is his right under the covenant," Caliph insisted, "and necessary for Orin's protection. He cannot fully commit to what he does not remember." Tavim considered this, then nodded slowly. "Very well, but I must register my concern. The human may not survive with his mind intact." "Wait," Jaden interrupted, alarmed. "What exactly does memory restoration involve?" "Direct neural interface with the Wormheart," Caliph explained. "It contains records of all who have touched it, including you, during our expedition to the ancient temple. It can restore what was taken from you." "And potentially scramble my brain in the process?" Jaden asked incredulously. "There is risk," she acknowledged. "But without your full memories, you remain vulnerable. to manipulation, to doubt, to the political machinations of those who would use you against Orin. Jaden looked down at the child, his child, who watched this exchange with far too much understanding for one so young. "Is this what you want?" he asked Orin softly. Orin considered the question with surprising gravity. "I want you to know me," the child finally said. "Really know me, not just from now, but from before." Something in those words reached into Jaden's core. There was a gap in his life, not just the missing memories of this alleged relationship, but a larger sense of purpose and connection that had always eluded him. "All right," he agreed, straightening. "I'll do it." Tavim nodded solemnly. "Then let the ceremony begin. Princess Kalith, bring the human to the Heartstone." Kalith guided Jaden toward the crystalline structure at the center of the chamber. As they approached, it pulsed more rapidly, the galaxy within seeming to swirl in response to their presence. "Place your hands on the surface," she instructed, "and prepare yourself. This will not be gentle." Jaden hesitated, then placed his palms against the crystal. It felt warm, almost alive beneath his touch. For a moment nothing happened. Then the world exploded. Images flooded his mind, not like memories, but like living through events again in compressed time. A research expedition, ancient ruins on a forgotten moon, a cave-in that separated him from his team, and then her, Kalith, younger, in simpler attire, studying the same ruins with her own team, their initial wariness, forced cooperation to escape, days together, learning, sharing knowledge, barriers of species and culture gradually eroding under the pressure of isolation and mutual fascination. And then the discovery, the smaller Heartstone hidden within the ruins. Their simultaneous touch, an accident. The surge of energy, the melding not just of minds but of genetic patterns, temporarily altering them both, making the impossible possible. What followed was intensely private, a blending of affection and altered biochemistry that Jaden experienced now with overwhelming clarity. Not a mistake or a manipulation, but a genuine connection, unexpected and profound. Then more fragments, separation as rescue teams arrived, the discovery of her royal identity, his horror at the political implications, her promise to handle the consequences, a last embrace before his return to his team, and then darkness, men in Terran intelligence uniforms, explanations about galactic stability, the necessity of removing certain memories for the greater good. His own reluctant agreement, believing Kalith would be better off without the scandal of a human lover. With a gasp, Jaden pulled his hands away from the Heartstone, staggering backward. Kalith caught him, her touch now familiar in a way it hadn't been before. "You remember," she said softly, not a question but a recognition. "Yes," he managed, his voice hoarse. "They told me it was for your protection, that a relationship with a human would destroy your standing. That you agreed to the memory wipe." Her eyes widened. "I never agreed to any such thing. I spent months searching for you after I discovered I was carrying Orin. By the time I located your research station, you had been transferred with no records of where." The implications hit Jaden like a physical blow. "We were manipulated, both of us." "By whom?" she asked, her voice hardening. "I don't know. Terran intelligence certainly, but they might have been working with others, someone who didn't want our species connecting this way." Orin approached cautiously, sensing the tension. "Father, are you well?" The word, father, no longer felt alien to Jaden. With his restored memories came the emotional context he had been missing. This was his child, born of a genuine connection that had been stolen from him. "I'm better than well," he replied, kneeling to Orin's level. "I remember now. I remember your mother. I remember everything." Orin's smile was radiant. "I knew the Heartstone would help. It always helps me when I'm confused." Elder Tavim approached, studying Jaden with new interest. The human's neural patterns have stabilized remarkably well. The Heartstone accepts him as blood kin. Jaden stood, still slightly disoriented but growing steadier. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means," Kalith explained, "that the Council must acknowledge your place in the succession. Orin is the legitimate heir to the Wormheart throne, and you are the child's parent, entitled to all the protections and responsibilities thereof." Which Archon Revik will challenge immediately, came a new voice from the chamber entrance. All heads turned to see a tall, imposing Zevrathi male enter, flanked by guards in military rather than ceremonial attire. His resemblance to Calith was clear, the same regal bearing, but with a coldness in his eyes that she lacked. "Brother," Calith acknowledged, her posture stiffening. "Your timing is impeccable as always." "Sister," Revik returned with mock cordiality, "returning from the dead becomes you, and you've brought the human responsible for your indiscretion." His gaze fixed on Jaden with undisguised contempt. How convenient that he appears just as the child's abilities manifest. "The blood covenant has been activated and witnessed," Elder Tavim stated firmly. "The human has undergone memory restoration and been accepted by the Heartstone." Revik's expression darkened. "Memory restoration? Without full council approval? This exceeds your authority, Elder." "It is within my rights as guardian of the Heartstone," Tavim countered. The situation warranted immediate action. "Did it?" Revik asked silkily. "Or was it simply expedient for those who wish to usurp the regency?" Calith stepped forward. "I have never sought the throne, brother. I simply want my child, our family's heir, to be safe and acknowledged." "A half-human heir," Revik sneered. "You expect the Imperium to accept this dilution of our sacred bloodline? This contamination?" Jaden felt a surge of protective anger. "That contamination seems to have strengthened the bloodline, from what I understand. Orin can do things no pure-blooded Zevrathi has done in generations." Revik's eyes narrowed. "The human speaks on matters it cannot comprehend. The ancient bloodlines are not to be trifled with. Stability and purity have maintained our dominance for millennia." "Stagnation, you mean?" Jaden countered, drawing on his genetic engineering background. "Closed gene pools eventually deteriorate. Evolution requires diversity." "Enough," Tavim intervened. "This debate belongs in the full council. For now, the blood covenant stands. Princess Calith, the human, and the child Orin are under the protection of the Heartstone until formal succession can be determined." Revik's jaw tightened, but he inclined his head in reluctant acknowledgement of the elder's authority. "Very well. I call for a full council deliberation at the next rising. All parties will present their claims." His gaze shifted to Orin, who had been watching the exchange with unusual intensity for a child. "Enjoy your family reunion while it lasts, nephew." With that parting shot, he turned and left, his guards following closely. As soon as he was gone, Calith's composure wavered slightly. He will not wait for the council. He has never been one to risk his ambitions on political debate. "What will he do?" Jaden asked, moving protectively closer to Orin. "Precisely what he threatened," she replied grimly. "He will attempt to eliminate the problem. We need to move Orin to a secure location immediately." "The inner sanctum," Tavim suggested. "The Heartstone's influence is strongest there." "And make ourselves an easy target?" Calith shook her head. "No. We need to leave the Citadel entirely." "Leave?" Jaden questioned. "Wouldn't that forfeit your political position?" Calith's expression was fierce. "Politics means nothing if Orin is harmed. I've hidden successfully before. I can do it again." "Not this time," Tavim cautioned. "The blood covenant has registered in all systems. Your signatures, all three of you, are now being actively tracked by the Heartstone network. Anywhere connected to the wormhole grid, you will be detected." "Then we go somewhere not connected," Calith insisted. "There is another option," Tavim said hesitantly. "The Heartstone connection." Calith's eyes widened. "That's theoretical at best and dangerous at worst." "What's the Heartstone connection?" Jaden asked. "A direct neural link between compatible individuals and the Wormheart system," Tavim explained. "It would allow you to access the network without being tracked, essentially hiding within the system itself." "But the physical toll," Calith began, "is significant," Tavim acknowledged, "but perhaps not for one who has already demonstrated unusual compatibility." He looked meaningfully at Jaden. "The human's neural structure adapted remarkably well to memory restoration, and combined with Orin's natural affinity, You want to connect our minds to this system? Jaden asked incredulously. All three of us? It would create a unique signature that Revik couldn't track, Tavim confirmed, and potentially give you access to resources and information that could help secure Oren's position permanently. Kalith shook her head. The risk is too great. No adult has successfully maintained the connection for more than a few moments without permanent neural damage. Oren has, Tavim countered softly. All eyes turned to the child, who had been suspiciously quiet during this exchange. Is this true? Kalith asked. Oren nodded slowly. I speak to the heart sometimes. It shows me things, possibilities. For how long? Kalith demanded, clearly shocked. Since I first touched it, the child admitted. It's always there, in the back of my mind. Jaden felt a chill run down his spine. That can't be healthy for a developing brain. On the contrary, Tavim said, the child shows no signs of neural strain, quite the opposite. Oren's cognitive development is accelerated far beyond normal parameters. Because of this connection? Jaden asked. Because of your combined genetics, Tavim corrected. Human adaptability with Zavrathi's psychic potential. The Heartstone recognizes something in this combination that it values. It's not just a machine, is it? Jaden realized. It's partly alive. The ancient ones did not recognize the distinction we make between biological and technological, Tavim explained. The Heartstone is both, and neither. It is a legacy and a guardian, waiting for the right bloodline to fully awaken it. Kalith's expression was troubled. And you believe that bloodline is ours, this combination? I believe it is worth testing, Tavim replied carefully, especially given the immediate threat Revik poses. A distant alarm sounded, and Maera, who had been standing guard at the chamber entrance, suddenly stiffened to attention. Security breach in the outer sectors, she reported. Multiple unauthorized access points. He moves faster than expected, Kalith muttered. We're out of options and time. Jaden looked at Oren, who met his gaze with unnerving calmness. Can you guide us through this connection thing? Oren nodded solemnly. I can show you the way. It won't hurt, not really. It just feels big at first. Jaden turned to Kalith. I don't see that we have much choice. If Revik is already making his move. She hesitated, then nodded sharply. Very well. But at the first sign of neural distress in any of us, we sever the connection. Agreed, said Tavim. Come. To the inner sanctum. As they hurried deeper into the citadel, following Tavim through passages that seemed to shift and change direction, Jaden felt a growing sense of unreality. Just days ago, he had been a nobody lab tech on a forgotten research station. Now he was a father, bound by ancient alien covenants, about to link his mind with a semi-sentient galactic network to escape an evil regent. It would make a fantastic story if he lived to tell it. The inner sanctum was smaller than the ceremonial chamber, but far more impressive. Here, the Heartstone's influence was palpable. The very air seemed to shimmer with energy, and the walls themselves pulsed with patterns of light that responded to their presence. At the center stood a smaller, more concentrated version of the Heartstone. Not a replica, Jaden somehow knew, but a direct extension of the same consciousness. The primary interface, Tavim explained, gesturing toward 3 reclined seats arranged in a triangle around the Heartstone. Once you are positioned, I will activate the synchronization field. And then what exactly? Jaden asked as he cautiously approached one of the seats. Then you open yourselves to the Heartstone, Tavim replied simply. Oren will guide you. Kalith took her position with practiced grace, though Jaden could sense her tension. Oren climbed into the 3rd seat, looking almost comically small in the adult-sized chair. It will be all right, Father, the child said with that disconcerting maturity. The heart already knows us. It's been waiting. Waiting for what? Jaden asked as he settled into his seat. Oren smiled mysteriously. For us to be together, of course. Tavim activated a sequence of controls embedded in the chamber floor. A field of shimmering energy enveloped the 3 of them, connecting them to the Heartstone and to each other. Clear your minds, Tavim instructed. Allow the Heartstone to find its own path. Jaden closed his eyes, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He felt a presence brush against his consciousness, familiar, yet alien, like the touch of a dream. Orin, he realized, the child's mind, reaching out to guide him. And then another presence, Kalith, her mental signature both fierce and vulnerable, a complex tapestry of strength, fear, and carefully guarded hope. Through these connections came a third presence, vast beyond comprehension. The Heartstone itself, ancient and patient, curiously examining these three minds that had offered themselves to its care. Images flashed through Jaden's consciousness. Star systems, wormhole pathways, civilizations rising and falling across millennia. Knowledge poured into him faster than he could process, threatening to overwhelm his human brain. Just when he thought he might lose himself in the flood, he felt Orin's consciousness steady him, creating a buffer between his mind and the raw data of the Heartstone. "Like this, Father," came the child's thought, showing rather than telling how to filter and process the connection. Jaden followed the guidance, and gradually the chaotic influx resolved into comprehensible patterns. He could sense Kalith doing the same, her natural Zavrathi abilities making the adjustment somewhat easier for her. As they stabilized, a new awareness formed, not just of the Heartstone, but of each other. Jaden could feel Kalith's lingering pain at his apparent abandonment, her fierce protectiveness of Orin, and beneath it all, the ember of what they had once shared. In turn, he knew she could sense his shock, his wonder, and his growing commitment to this unexpected family. And at the center was Orin, a bridge between species, between minds, between the ancient technology and its potential future. The child's mind was a marvel, processing the connection with an ease that neither adult could match. "We are synchronized," came Tavim's voice, seemingly from a great distance. "The Heartstone has accepted the connection. You are now hidden from conventional tracking." More than hidden, Orin's thought came clearly to both parents. "We are everywhere the network touches." Through their shared perception, they could sense the vast extent of the wormhole network. Pathways connecting distant star systems, many dormant for millennia, but still intact, waiting to be reactivated. "This is incredible," Jaden thought. "The network extends far beyond what any current civilization knows." "The ancient ones traveled far," Kalith's thought replied. "Before their disappearance, they connected galaxies." A sudden disruption rippled through their shared consciousness, an alarm from the Heartstone itself. "Intrusion!" Orin's thought came urgently. "Someone is trying to access the primary systems." Through the connection, they could see what was happening in the outer chambers of the Citadel. Revik had brought a full contingent of soldiers, overwhelming the guards loyal to the Council. He was forcing his way toward the inner sanctum, accompanied by someone in elaborate technical gear. A specialist of some kind. "He's brought a neural override technician." Kalith's thought carried her horror. "He means to sever our connection and reprogram the Heartstone to reject Orin's bloodline." "Can he do that?" Jaden asked through the link. "Not completely, but he can damage the recognition protocols enough to create doubt," she replied. "Enough to justify eliminating Orin as a false claimant." Jaden felt a surge of protective rage. "Not while I'm alive." "Physical resistance is futile at this point," Tavim's voice came again, tense with urgency. "They outnumber us significantly." "Then we don't resist physically," Jaden thought, an idea forming. "We use the network itself." He directed his focus deeper into the Heartstone connection, searching for something he had glimpsed in the flood of information, access protocols, defense mechanisms built into the system. There, Orin's thought guided him. The primary security grid. Together, they navigated the complex pathways of the ancient system, Jaden's human intuition complementing Zavrathi precision and Orin's natural affinity. They found what they were seeking, a dormant protocol designed to protect the Heartstone from unauthorized manipulation. "This might work," Kalith thought, "but the energy requirements will drain us significantly," Jaden completed. "But it's our best option." "I can handle the main load," Orin offered. "The heart responds better to me." "Absolutely not," both parents thought simultaneously, their protective instincts in perfect alignment. "We do this together," Jaden insisted. Equal distribution. They could sense Revik drawing closer, the neural override technician preparing equipment designed to forcibly separate them from the Heartstone. Now, Caliph thought decisively. As one, they activated the ancient security protocol. Energy surged through the Heartstone, channeled through their linked minds. The chamber's walls glowed with blinding intensity as dormant systems awakened. A barrier of pure energy materialized around the inner sanctum, just as Revik and his forces reached the entrance. The neural override technician rushed forward, attempting to bypass the barrier with specialized tools. Maintain focus, Tevim urged from somewhere beyond their perception. The protocol is holding. Through their connection to the Citadel's systems, they could see Revik's fury as his technician failed to penetrate the barrier. This is temporary at best, Caliph thought. We need a more permanent solution. The Wormheart Protocol, Oren's thought came, surprising both parents with knowledge neither possessed. What is that? Jaden asked. The final defense, the child explained. Total synchronization with the network. It would give us complete control, enough to exile Revik and stabilize the succession permanently. And the cost? Caliph demanded, sensing there must be one. Transformation, Oren thought simply. We would be changed, not fully human, not fully Zavrathi. Something new. Changed how, exactly? Jaden pressed. The Heartstone would rewrite portions of our neural and genetic structure, Oren explained, to better interface with the network permanently. That sounds dangerously close to assimilation, Jaden thought with alarm. Not assimilation, Oren corrected. Evolution, guided, accelerated adaptation. Outside their protective barrier, Revik had brought in heavier equipment. The shield was beginning to fluctuate under sustained assault. We're running out of time and options, Caliph thought grimly. Jaden felt torn. The scientist in him recoiled at the idea of such fundamental alteration. Yet what choice did they have? If they lost this confrontation, Oren would be killed, Caliph imprisoned or worse, and he himself would likely be eliminated as an inconvenient loose end. I'll do it, he decided. But only me. You two maintain the barrier while I attempt the protocol. It requires all three, Oren insisted. The triad connection is key. One cannot complete it alone. The child is correct, came Tevim's voice, weaker now as he apparently defended the chamber physically. The Wormheart Protocol was designed for a specific genetic trinity, what the ancient ones called a stabilizing triad, the combination you three represent. You knew this? Caliph accused the elder through their link. You guided us to this deliberately. I suspected, Tevim admitted. The prophecies spoke of a hybrid child who would awaken the dormant network. When Oren first connected with the Heartstone, I began to believe. The barrier flickered dangerously as the assault intensified. We need to decide now, Jaden thought urgently. I vote yes, Oren thought immediately. Caliph's consciousness rippled with conflict. The changes would be irreversible, but we would be together, Oren pointed out, and safe. Jaden reached out through their connection, offering what reassurance he could. Whatever we become, we face it as a family. Family. The word resonated through their linked minds, carrying the weight of everything at stake. Together, then, Caliph agreed finally. As one, they directed their focus to the deepest level of the Heartstone connection, where the Wormheart Protocol lay dormant. Guided by Oren's instinctive understanding, they navigated the ancient safeguards, presenting themselves as the triad the system had been waiting for. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Energy surged through the connection, no longer just information, but a transformative force that reached into their very cells. Jaden felt a searing pain as his neural pathways reorganized, expanded, adapted to interface more directly with the ancient technology. Through their link, he knew Caliph was experiencing something similar, though her Zavrathi physiology made the transition somewhat easier. Oren, remarkably, seemed to be absorbing the changes with minimal distress, as if the child had been partially prepared for this from birth. Outside their perception, the barrier around the inner sanctum had intensified, now glowing with a light so bright that Revik's forces were forced to retreat. The Heartstone itself had transformed, expanding throughout the chamber, integrating with their physical forms even as they remained seated in their original positions. The pain peaked, then suddenly subsided, replaced by an awareness so vast and clear that Jaden's previous perception seemed like viewing the universe through a keyhole. The wormhole network spread before them in its entirety, not just the active routes used by current civilizations, but thousands of dormant pathways connecting galaxies long thought unreachable. Every node, every junction, every potential connection lay open to their shared consciousness. And with this awareness came control, the ability to open or close pathways at will, to redirect energy, to communicate instantly across vast distances. It worked, Oren's thought came, tinged with wonder even though the child had expected success. We are the Triad now. What does that actually mean? Jaden asked, still adjusting to his expanded perception. It means, Caliph thought, that we are now the legitimate guardians of the network by the oldest laws of the Ancient Ones. No one, not even the full council, can dispute our authority in this domain. Through their new awareness, they could sense Ravik and his forces in confusion, unable to penetrate the transformed inner sanctum and facing a rapidly changing political situation as news of the activation spread throughout the citadel. He will not surrender easily, Caliph warned. My brother has never accepted limitation. Then we demonstrate the new reality in terms he cannot ignore, Jaden suggested. With newfound confidence, they extended their awareness through the Citadel's systems. One by one, the ancient mechanisms long thought decorative or non-functional began to activate, responding to the Triad's authority. Pathways sealed, cutting off Revik's forces from reinforcement. Communication systems temporarily disabled, preventing him from coordinating resistance. And finally, a direct connection to the council chamber, where they projected a unified message. Their three faces merged into one image, speaking with one voice. The Wormheart Protocol has been activated, they announced. The Triad is established. Archon Revik's regency is hereby terminated. All forces will stand down immediately. They could sense the shock rippling through the Citadel, not just at the command itself, but at the undeniable authority behind it. The ancient technology was responding in ways not seen for millennia, confirming the legitimacy of their claim. Revik, trapped and isolated, had no choice but to surrender. His technician, recognizing the fundamental shift in power, immediately abandoned the attempt to breach the inner sanctum. As the situation stabilized, the three began the careful process of separating their consciousnesses while maintaining the Triad connection to the network. It was like learning to walk again, discovering how to function as individuals while remaining part of something greater. When they finally opened their physical eyes, they found the inner sanctum transformed. The chamber had expanded, incorporating elements of the Heartstone throughout its structure. Tavim stood watching them with undisguised awe. "It is done," the elder said simply. "The prophecy of the Triad is fulfilled." Jaden looked down at his hands, expecting some visible change to match the internal transformation. They appeared normal, though occasionally shimming with subtle energy when he focused on the network connection. "How do you feel?" Caliph asked him, her voice now carrying harmonics his enhanced hearing could detect. "Different," he replied honestly. "Expanded, like I can see the connections between things that were always there but invisible before." Oren slipped from the chair and approached both parents, taking their hands. The child's touch completed a circuit, strengthening their connection momentarily. "We're family now," Oren stated, "not just by blood, but by something deeper." Caliph's expression softened as she looked at Jaden. "Not the reunion I imagined when I discovered you were still alive." "Better, I hope," he offered. "Different," she echoed his earlier assessment, "but with potential." The doors to the inner sanctum finally opened, revealing a delegation of council elders led by Tavim. They entered cautiously, clearly unsure what to expect from the transformed Triad. "The council acknowledges the activation of the Wormheart Protocol," Tavim announced formally, and recognizes the Triad's authority over the network. Archon Ravik has been detained pending full investigation of his actions. And the succession? Kalith asked. Is no longer in question, Tavim replied. The ancient technology has made its choice clear. The Triad, all three of you, now hold a position above traditional succession. You are not merely rulers of the Zavrathi, but guardians of something far greater. Jaden felt a moment of panic at the implication. I don't know how to rule anything, let alone something of this magnitude. None of us do, Kalith pointed out reasonably. This hasn't existed in living memory. We will define what it means to be the Triad. Oren looked up at both parents with complete confidence. We'll figure it out together. The heart will guide us. As the council members bowed in formal acknowledgement of their new status, Jaden was struck by the absurdity of his situation. One drunken DNA test had catapulted him from obscure lab technician to co-guardian of an intergalactic transportation network, father to an extraordinary child, and partner to a princess. Not exactly how I expected my career to develop, he murmured to Kalith. She actually smiled at that, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her since their reunion. Are you regretting it already? He looked at Oren, then back at her, and found the answer came easily. Not for a second. Later, after the formalities had been observed and they had been escorted to royal quarters within the Citadel, Jaden found a moment of quiet to access the Heartstone network privately. There was something that had been nagging at him since his memories were restored, a missing piece to the puzzle. Through his new connection, he navigated to the oldest records, searching for information about human Zavrathi interactions. What he found confirmed his suspicions. Kalith found him there, his expression troubled as he processed the discovery. What is it? She asked, sensing his disturbance through their link. My presence on that expedition 6 years ago wasn't accidental, he explained, showing her the records he'd found. I was deliberately placed there as part of a classified Terran intelligence operation called Project Bloodline. She examined the data with growing alarm. They engineered your genetics? Before you were even born? Subtly modified, he confirmed grimly, to be compatible with Zavrathi royal bloodlines. My entire career path was guided to put me in position for that expedition. You were designed to infiltrate our lineage, she realized, to give humans access to the network. I was a genetic Trojan horse, he agreed bitterly. Probably intended to father a child exactly like Oren, a bridge between species that could access the ancient technology. Kalith's expression darkened. They used you. Used us both. Yes, he acknowledged, but they couldn't predict everything. They couldn't predict Oren's unique abilities or the Triad connection. They thought they were planting a spy, but instead they helped create something beyond their control, she completed. Something better, came Oren's voice from the doorway. The child entered, obviously having followed the thread of their distress through the Triad link. They tried to make a tool, but made family instead. Jaden knelt to Oren's level. You knew about this? I saw possibilities in the heart, the child admitted. Many paths that could have been. In some, you were used as they intended. In others, you never found us at all. And in this one? Kalith asked. Oren smiled, the expression holding wisdom far beyond 6 years. In this one, we write our own story, together. Jaden felt the weight of manipulation lift slightly at those words. Yes, his origin had been engineered, his path partially predetermined, but the connection he felt to this child, to Kalith, to the extraordinary role they now shared, that was real. That was choice. So, he said, straightening up, what now? What does a Triad actually do day to day? Rebuild the network, Oren suggested immediately. Most of it has been sleeping for millennia. Re-establish contact with forgotten worlds, Kalith added, warming to the idea. Share knowledge that has been isolated for too long. Create something new, Jaden concluded. Not just Zavrathi, not just human, but a true galactic community. Through their shared connection, he could feel their agreement, their excitement at the possibilities before them. Whatever had brought them together, manipulation, coincidence, or destiny. They now had the power to shape their own future. Not bad for a guy who just took a DNA test for fun, Jaden mused. Calith raised an eyebrow. Is that what you're going to tell people when they ask how you ended up helping rule the universe? Why not? He grinned. It's technically true. As Oren laughed and Calith shook her head in amused exasperation, Jaden felt the last pieces of his old life falling away. The lab technician from Grimhold 7 was gone, replaced by something both more and less than human, a father, a partner, a guardian of ancient power. And somehow, impossibly, it felt right. As if he had finally found the place he was always meant to be, at the center of a family that transcended species, and at the beginning of an adventure beyond imagination. All because of one impulsive, drunken DNA test. Sometimes, Jaden reflected as he embraced his new family, the universe had a strange sense of humor, but he wouldn't have it any other way.